Hello. So, I'm going to try to talk about this verbally instead of writing it out. Mostly because I haven't written in a blog in a long time and I started this. So, I just watched, I'd say one of the most thought provoking films I've seen in a while. It's relatively old, it's a few years old. I bought it at a Blockbuster that was going out of business because it was really cheap, and I had read the book when I was probably 15 when I read it. The book is called The Reader, and the movie's titled the same. And honestly, I'm trying to think back to when I'd read it because I don't remember having this many thoughts, about its contents, really. So, basically, this is going to be a huge spoiler, so if you haven't seen this, then don't watch this. But it's about a boy who has a short love affair with a woman that he met on the street. And she helped him out because he had gotten sick. And, so basically, he happens to see her again, and he happens to start having sex with her. He falls in love with her within a summer, and she gets rid of him after about a summer. And she starts requesting that he read to her, and he realizes, at the end of this affair, that she doesn't know how to read, and that's why he's been reading to her. So, you fast forward quite a few years, and he's in law school, and he is a part of this really enormous trial for some kind of, law seminar. And he realizes, at the first day of the trial, that his love affair is one of the main defendants. So, really going back to the affair, it just kind of seemed like it ruined his whole life, or rather he let it ruin his whole life. And he closes his heart off, and he stops talking to people, and he stops opening up. There's so much that could be said about this. So, he, at this trial, basically, she's accused of being someone who let 300 Jews die in a concentration camp. Well, rather, they were leaving a concentration camp, and they let them stay in a church for the night. The church got bombed and was on fire, and nobody let them out. So 300 Jews in a church perished because nobody unlocked the door. And obviously this is a fiction story, but I think that that's completely possible, something like that happening. I'm sure it did happen. So, she's put on trial for this. Everybody's pointing the finger at her, saying she was the one who wrote the report that said, we locked the doors, we knew why we were locking the doors, and, that was the end of the story. And she didn't know how to write, and she was so embarrassed about it that, they wanted her writing sample to see if she'd really written the report, and she wouldn't give it to them. She said she was guilty, and she was sentenced to life in jail. So she goes to this, to jail for a report she didn't even write. Sure, I'm sure in some small way she was really guilty of this. I mean, she was a guard, she took it as a job. It doesn't really specify if she knew what she was doing was wrong, or if she actually saw people being murdered. So, it's just crazy. And so, the main character, the man who's, he knew this information. He knew that she was illiterate. He knew that she couldn't write. He could have saved her from this trial. She wouldn't have been found guilty of the crime, or at least she wouldn't have served so much time in jail. he had this chance and he didn't take it. And I think that it's completely because he was so hurt by what happened and he couldn't open up to anybody. I mean, his professor kept asking him at the trial, like, why he was acting so weird. The other students in the class asked him why he kept staring at the defendant, and he couldn't tell anyone. And, it never got resolved. By the end of the story, she kills herself because, he basically taught her how to read by sending her cassettes when she was in jail of, books that he had read during that summer. And I don't know. I wonder if she would have killed herself had she known anything about him. He didn't say a word to her. It's just such a heart-wrenching story. I don't even know how to formulate this into words right now. So there's a part in the film, and, I don't really remember the book, to be honest, but, that she had killed herself, and the woman, the sole survivor of this fire, or rather, the daughter of the sole survivor of this fire, she says that she won't accept the money, and this was the only gift that this woman had given anybody, after she died, and she wanted them to have it. She wouldn't take it, and she said, I don't understand why people keep asking me if concentration camps are what I learned from them. It wasn't therapy, it was just a camp, and there's nothing you can learn from these camps. And it's like, well, I don't know, there's this underlying theme in this film of people that have closed off their hearts from things that have happened to them. And it's kind of weird to think about because they're only really hurting themselves, and what can you do about that? You can't do anything. You have to let them do it. And he's really polite to her, and he thanks her, even though she won't accept the money. And, it's just like when you think about it, and I'm not Jewish. I don't know what this is like. I don't have family members that were put in concentration camps. I really don't know, but at the same time, I think that this is a societal problem. I think that Jewish people, they've had a lot of time to think about this, to think about what happened. I don't think that they were at fault. It was insane what happened to them, but I think that there's a lesson to learn in everything, and by closing yourself off and saying there's no lesson to be learned, you're just dooming yourself for failure. So, the story, it was an amazing story. It really makes you think, but at the same time, I feel like everybody in this film had failed. He failed her. Maybe she was the only one who didn't fail by taking the responsibility for her actions and wasting away the rest of her life in jail. And what can be said about that? Whew, so, it's a very heavy blog. I think I almost cried a couple of times there, but I wanted to share my thoughts. So, signing out.